Oli from Knowsis.
Hello everyone, last one. Hopefully not too social media out, so I'll try and keep it snappy. My name's Oli Freeling-Wilkinson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Knowsis. What is Knowsis? We are made by traders for traders. We're a big data analytics technology company that makes sense of social media for the financial markets. I'll give you sort of 2 seconds of my background to sort of tell you how we got here. My sort of most recent experience was actually in an investment bank. I was on the sales trading floor, and my speciality was actually alpha capture. And for the guys that don't know much about alpha capture, it's where funds use signals from traders or salespeople from banks to get signals to decide whether they should be buying or selling certain stocks. And so it's pretty natural that my interest got perked up when social media started to come about 2 or 3 years ago, about why we weren't kind of using this alternative source of information more as a potential source of alpha, I guess. So, I mean, there's been some really interesting conversations this evening already about how social can help traders actually beat the markets. And, you know, as traders ourselves, we'd be naturally tempted to put our technology to the test. And as you can see behind me, we're the yellow line. This is trading euro-dollar this year, just using our signals to buy and sell, versus if you just bought euro-dollar, for example, through this year. And you know, it's been really interesting and exciting. And I guess the basic science behind what we do is pretty straightforward. If people are generally happy about something, they're going to be more inclined to buy it than if they're not. You know, there's a lot of cool things I can show you here, but I think we've talked a lot about this already, so I'm not going to focus on that today. I'm going to kind of bring it back to basics, think about the end user here more than anything, because I think, you know, what Knowsis is trying to do, and it's quite key, is to bridge the divide between the skeptics in finance and social media. And, you know, let's face it, in finance there are a lot of skeptics, particularly when you start to throw social media into the mix. And even for the guys in the middle, the waverers, the guys who can kind of get it, kind of realise social media is important, you know, but they don't really know where to start. And, you know, is it any wonder? Because to them, social media is a jungle. And who can blame them? You know, from a finance perspective, let's not forget, social media has a lot of problems. It's unstructured, it's noisy, and it's very hard to keep track of all these multiple streams that are out there, which as a consequence makes it extremely difficult to extract value from it efficiently. So what we're trying to do with Knowsis is we're trying to sort of address these problems. You know, we built Knowsis knowing that, you know, there are a lot of skeptics out there. And so what we've tried to do is sort of answer these questions by building something that has very much been shaped by the client base that we've been talking to as we've developed it, and will continue to drive our development in the future. You know, and one of the key things is really to deliver a solution, and solution is really the key thing that that can show that social media can add value to everyday trading investment decisions. And so what we try and do, I mean, what does that mean? I guess it goes more than just providing a sentiment score. And whilst there's undoubtedly value in providing sentiment, you know, and particularly to me, it's pretty clear that as we were building our technology, a lot of the traders and investors that we were talking to as we were doing this, they kind of wanted more than that. You know, for them, they really wanted to find a way to tap into the vast universe of social conversation, to really try and understand why the market is feeling the way it is, and to potentially give us cues as to where it could go. And that's really key. And not only that, they want it presented in a really easy format. So the guy who's uninitiated in social media can get it, and you can get value from it immediately. And of course, the easiest things to present are often the most difficult things to develop. And so, you know, we found that being overly complex with you know, really fantastic systems or just loads of streams just doesn't really cut it. And so our focus has been really on trying to deliver that solution. You know, and the good news is that our technology takes care of all the inherent problems of trying to extract value from social media. We identify and amalgamate financially relevant social conversation into insightful and actionable content. And so what does this mean? I mean, let's look at a really basic example. You know, and this is really basic, but it's just trying to illustrate the point of how we can use social media to add value to everyday trading decisions. So let's look at this iPhone. You know, the normal thing would happen is that you'd read a review about the iPhone, and let's say it's a really bad review. It's a terrible review about the iPhone. And the chances are that that review has shaped your perception about the parent company of this iPhone, which is Apple. You know, and so if you're a trader or an investor, what you probably might want to do is sell Apple on the back of that bad review. It's not unreasonable because, let's face it, the iPhone is a big driver of Apple's share price. So that's exactly what you do. You sell Apple. But before long, you're losing money. You know, you've got your head in your hands. The stock price is rising. You don't really know why. Is the market mad? Haven't they read this bad review? What's going on? You know, and unfortunately, and believe it or not, this is quite a common occurrence, and this happens on a daily basis. And it doesn't matter if you are a day trader sat at home in your pants, or if you are a seasoned pro in a hedge fund, you know, a sophisticated hedge fund or bank. You know, this is a really common occurrence. But so we kind of try to look at it from a different way. You know, what if there's a different way? What if there's a way that you could add another level of market colour that's not really been done before? You know, and that's something that we focus on quite hard. So, you know, and as this title says, you know, we aim to provide market colour for the social information age to really empower traders and investors to make better trading decisions. And a couple of key highlights, and there are so many cool things you can do with social data. You know, one of them is sentiment, and it's interesting, as was mentioned earlier, about the fact that sentiment is commoditized, and that's really true. However, you know, it shouldn't be commoditized because the systems, the technology that everybody uses to get that sentiment value, whatever it is so different from the things they look at to the way their algos work and in terms of actually deriving that value. You know, and I guess the key thing on sentiment is it still doesn't matter how bright the guys are that give you that value. Ultimately, it's only as good as your data source. So relevance is massively, massively key. The second thing is demographics. You know, people might want to know, well, who is the crowd behind this social conversation? You know, are they market professionals or is it just the general population? And if it is market professionals, what do they think about Apple right now? And that's really key. The kind of final sort of highlight, I guess, is context. And context is absolutely everything. It's one of the key things that we got thrown back at us when we were talking about building our technology in the first place. You know, and what we do is we amalgamate all of that social conversation, and that social conversation can be short-term technical chatter to longer-term macro themes, whatever it may be. But importantly, it's whatever is important at that moment in time, and we amalgamate it into really nice, bite-sized, legible themes. So let's go back to the guy with Apple. Now, bearing in mind, what I'm showing isn't indicative of what can be displayed. It's just purely for this presentation. So the guy with Apple now, he can now check to see that the market is in fact massively bullish, as he was about to put his sell trade on. Okay, well, that's good. So, but why is the market bullish? Surely they must have taken into account my bad review. But guess what? The market doesn't care about that bad review right now. What they're actually talking about is the fact that there's a rumour that they're about to release a new TV set that's going to revolutionise the industry and Apple are going to make a ton of money. Now, the important thing here as a trader or investor is that you have two choices to make. You can either reassess your view on Apple and actually join the party, or you can think the whole market is smoking something and actually you think they're completely missing the point. Really, it's about that bad review on Apple. But at least now you can choose when you're going to execute that trade. You can wait for that frothiness, I guess, of bullish market sentiment on this particular rumour to dissipate before you start to put on your sell trade. And that is massively, massively powerful. You know, and this really basic example goes to show that when you think about that end user, social media, when used correctly, really can add value to everyday trading decisions. You know, and it's for that reason, again, that we believe that market color tools, social market color tools, will become much more embedded into everyday trading decisions, particularly as the next generation of traders and investors make themselves up through the ranks. So, thank you very much. So many cool things I can tell you about. But
okay, nice example, Oli. Thank you. Questions?
So is this market more towards like individuals, like you could be a trader and you look at this before you buy or sell, or is it marketed towards like the business in general?
In terms of the way we envisage using this kind of tool, it's definitely to help a trader or investor. So just to give you that extra level of market color that hasn't really ever been possible till now. You know, and I use the example of, you know, the guy with the head in his hands. You know, having been on many trading floors at sophisticated banks, you know, it is a common thing. People often don't know why the market is going one way or the other, despite the fact they've got the news feeds here. And it's because they don't really get a true understanding of what's actually driving that market, what news flow, what the market's actually interested in that moment of time. And that's kind of what we try and deliver.
Okay, and how are you marketing the products currently?
We, the way we are doing it actually will be being integrated into retail and also institutional platforms. So for us, the biggest thing is screen real estate, and it's something that people often forget. You know, we don't have a login or anything like that, because the last thing people want is another set of passwords or a login or another screen to have to sort of use. They'd rather it was all integrated into their trading platform of choice or data provider of choice, and that's kind of the route that we're going down.
How do you know when news is actually new? How do you know whether that review or that next bit of information coming down the wire isn't already factored into the price?
Sure. I mean, it's a good question. I think, without giving too much away about the way our systems work, it almost doesn't really matter to us because we are able to deal with a vast data set, a sample of people talking about something. What we're more interested in is what do they care about now? And it doesn't really bother me whether that news came out last week or came out this morning or 2 seconds ago. What's most important is this the theme of choice that people are actually massively engaged with, and how do they feel about that particular theme as well? And we find by looking at it from that perspective, you get much more of an insight to where the potential asset price might move. Because I should also throw in, actually, there's been a lot of talk about contrarian indicators with sentiment. Actually, we found the complete opposite, the way we use our system. We find it actually reinforces a trend to an upside or a downside.
Hi, I was wondering how you kind of present the information that you gather. And also, some of the other companies we've seen tonight add some value by trying to interpret that, but it sounds like you're leaving the interpretation to whoever's reading the information. I was wondering if you add any value to the information as such.
Well, what we can do, I mean, we've looked at that, and I guess the key point for us is when we were talking to traders and investors as we were building this was we wanted to deliver something that was at a low enough price point. And so by doing that, we don't layer on lots of different kind of, I guess, statistics and things like that. It can be done, and we work with our hedge fund partner actually to do just that on our trading strategy side of things. But we found that where it seemed to work much better, where we get the much broader appeal, is by presenting people with the data that they can then make their own mind up with. So when you actually get to see the context of what is driving the sentiment up or down, or whatever it may be, that person, because traders tend to think they know everything anyway, they can make a much more informed decision.
I guess partly related to the previous question, do you consider yourself mainly targeting traders that, I don't know, trade like daily traders or trade, I don't know, quarterly basis, whatever, or as well providing value to long-term investors? Yeah,
we can do both. I mean, what I've given you is literally just the tip of the iceberg, and I guess this example is just a very, very simple way to show how using an extra level of market colour that hasn't been able to be done before can definitely help people execute better. But of course, there's so much work that can be done. In fact, we're doing things on events and themes and plotting future events and how the market changes in reaction to future events, for example, that aren't just following a company or a stock. It will be very specific things. And not only that, we let the market tell us what it's interested in as well. The way our machine, our algos work is by ingesting information that we then sort out for relevance, because the trouble with having a specific search is that it's kind of backward looking. It's kind of what you know. But that in itself can be a problem, because people often talk about things in a different way, and new things come up. And so unless you're on top of all these kind of new things that have been talked about, you're bound to miss things. But yeah, there's so much stuff we can do, and we're talking with a big bulge bracket bank about doing some work with them. So in fact, one of the guys will be joining us on our board actually. So there's a lot of exciting things happening in the next few months.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.